There comes a moment in life when you realize that holding on is doing more damage than letting go. It's not easy to walk away from someone who once meant everything to you. The memories, the laughter, the promises, they all tie you to a version of yourself that believed in forever. But when love stops feeling like love, when it starts to feel like waiting, doubting, or questioning your worth, that's when you know it's time to go. And I know that's terrifying, because what if leaving means losing them for good? But here's the truth. You're not really losing them. You're finding yourself. When someone fails to see your worth, it doesn't mean you aren't valuable. It just means they weren't capable of appreciating what they had. Love should never feel like a battle for attention, affection, or respect. It should never leave you wondering where you stand or questioning if you're enough, because the right person will never make you doubt your place in their life. They will choose you every day, not just when it's convenient, not just when they're lonely, and not just when they realize what they're about to lose. Walking away isn't about proving a point or making them regret their choices. It's about recognizing that you deserve more than half-hearted love. It's about understanding that staying in a space where you aren't valued is more painful than the fear of the unknown. Because the truth is, the longer you stay where you aren't appreciated, the more you start to believe that maybe this is all you're worth. And that's the most dangerous lie you can ever tell yourself. You are not an option. You are not someone's backup plan. You are not a second choice or a temporary fix for their loneliness. You are love, you are light, and you are deserving of someone who sees that in you. Someone who doesn't need to lose you to understand your worth. And if they can't see it now, then you owe it to yourself to walk away, so that one day, when the right person comes along, you're not too broken to recognize real love. Yes, it will hurt. Some nights you'll want to turn back. You'll wonder if leaving was the right choice. But I promise you, every moment you spend healing, every time you choose yourself over settling, you are rewriting your story. You are teaching yourself that love should never come at the cost of your peace. And here's what will happen. You'll start to grow. You'll start to heal. You'll realize that the love you were waiting for from someone else was the love you needed to give yourself all along. And by the time they finally realize what they lost, you'll be too far ahead, too happy, and too whole to look back. So walk away, not because you want to hurt them, but because you love yourself enough to choose better. Time has a way of uncovering the truth, no matter how much someone tries to hide it. When emotions are high and heartbreak is fresh, it's easy to feel like the pain will never fade, like the person you walked away from will never understand what they lost. But time has a way of shifting perspectives, of showing people the reality they refused to see when they still had a choice. That's why you don't need to beg for clarity, chase after answers, or force someone to realize your worth, because eventually time will do the talking for you. In the beginning, it might seem like they're unaffected. They might act like they've moved on without a second thought, like losing you didn't shake their world. But don't let appearances fool you. People don't always show what they feel right away. Sometimes it takes distance, silence, and solitude for the weight of their choices to settle in. The absence of what was once familiar can be louder than any words. And when they no longer have access to your love, your kindness, and your presence, that's when they'll truly begin to feel the loss. But the beauty of time is that it doesn't just reveal their truth, it reveals yours too. It gives you space to see things clearly without the influence of emotions clouding your judgment. You start to realize that the love you were giving wasn't always being returned in the way you deserved. You begin to recognize the ways you compromised yourself to keep them close, the moments you ignored your own needs just to make them happy. And with every day that passes, you gain the strength to see that walking away wasn't a loss, it was a step towards something better. Time works differently for everyone. For some it brings regret, for others it brings growth, and for you it will bring healing. You won't always feel the sting of their absence the way you do in the beginning. The late night thoughts, the unanswered questions, the urge to check if they miss you too, all of that will fade, because eventually you will come to understand that if someone had to lose you to appreciate you, they never truly valued you in the first place. And one day, when they finally realize what they let slip through their fingers, when they look back and understand the love they took for granted, they will feel the weight of their choices. But by then, you won't be waiting for their realization. You'll be too far ahead, too healed, too whole to look back. Time will have already given you something much greater: clarity, peace, and the freedom to move forward without regret. So trust the process, let time do its work. The truth always reveals itself in the end, and when it does, you'll be exactly where you were meant to be. Pain is one of life's greatest teachers, even though it rarely feels that way in the moment. When you're hurting, when your heart is heavy, and when the weight of loss feels unbearable, the last thing you want to hear is that this pain has a purpose. But it does. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It doesn't come from easy days or smooth roads. Growth happens when everything feels like it's falling apart, when you're forced to sit with your emotions and face the version of yourself that you've been avoiding. Heartbreak, disappointment, and setbacks have a way of breaking you open, but not to destroy you, to rebuild you. In the pain, you find parts of yourself that were buried beneath the love you gave to the wrong person, beneath the expectations that weren't yours to carry, beneath the fears that told you settling was better than starting over. The pain forces you to look at yourself, to ask the hard questions. Who am I without them? What do I truly want? What have I been ignoring for the sake of someone else? And slowly, through the tears and the uncertainty, you begin to find answers. At first, healing feels impossible. The days feel endless, and the nights feel even heavier. You replay conversations in your mind, searching for moments that could have changed the outcome. You wonder if things would be different if you had done more, said more, fought harder, but the truth is, pain doesn't come to punish you. It comes to awaken you. It reminds you that you were never meant to stay in a place where your love wasn't valued, where your heart wasn't safe, where you constantly questioned your worth. And though the pain is sharp, it is also temporary. It lingers only as long as you resist the lesson it's trying to teach you. And then one day something shifts. You wake up and the ache isn't as strong as it was before. You laugh and it feels real again. You go through a whole day without thinking of them, and you realize you are moving forward. That's growth. It's in the small moments, the quiet victories that remind you pain doesn't last forever. You start to recognize yourself again, but this time you're stronger, wiser, and more certain of what you deserve. The most beautiful part of growth is that it turns pain into power. The love you once poured into someone else, you start pouring it into yourself. The dreams you put on hold, you chase them with new determination. The boundaries you used to ignore, you reinforce them with confidence. And before you know it, the version of you that once begged for love is now standing tall, unshaken, and unwilling to accept anything less than what they deserve. Pain may have brought you here, but growth will take you further than you ever imagined. And when you look back, you'll realize that the very thing that once broke you is the same thing that set you free. Revenge is a tempting thought when someone hurts you. There's a part of you that wants them to feel the same pain you felt, to see them suffer the way they made you suffer. You might imagine scenarios where they regret losing you, where they come crawling back, realizing too late that you were the best thing they ever had. But here's the truth. Real revenge isn't about making them hurt. It's about making yourself whole. And the best way to do that, confidence. Confidence is the kind of revenge that doesn't need words, doesn't need confrontation, and doesn't need validation from anyone else. It's the quiet power of knowing your worth, the strength of standing tall after being knocked down, and the undeniable glow of someone who has moved on, not just on the surface, but deep within. When you choose confidence over bitterness, you shift the focus away from them and back onto yourself, where it always should have been. At first, it's not easy. Heartbreak has a way of making you doubt yourself. It whispers lies in your ear, telling you that you weren't enough, that you were the problem, that maybe if you had done something differently, they would have stayed. But confidence silences those lies. Confidence reminds you that their inability to see your worth does not mean you are worthless. It tells you that their decision to walk away, to treat you poorly, or to take you for granted was a reflection of them, not you. And so instead of seeking revenge through anger or games, you build yourself back up. You focus on your goals, your passions, your dreams. You take care of yourself in ways you never did before. You step into your power, realizing that happiness doesn't come from being with them. It comes from being at peace with yourself. Then something happens. The energy shifts. The same person who once thought they could live without you starts to notice the change. They see the confidence in your walk, the light in your eyes, the way you are thriving without them. And suddenly, the tables have turned. Not because you tried to make them jealous, not because you played mind games, but because nothing is more powerful than someone who knows their worth. The best revenge is living well. It's moving forward without bitterness. It's looking back and realizing you no longer care if they regret losing you. Because by the time they do, you've already built a life so beautiful, so full, and so rich in love that you wouldn't trade it for anything, not even an apology. Confidence is the revenge that keeps you winning long after they've lost their chance. And the moment you realize that, you'll know you were never the one who lost anything, they were. Love in its purest form should never leave you wondering where you stand. It should never be a puzzle you have to piece together or a game you have to play just to feel valued. When someone truly loves you, you won't have to question it. You'll feel it in the way they show up, in the way they choose you, in the way they make you feel safe. Love should be clear, steady, and unwavering. And if it's not, then maybe it's not the love you deserve. Too often, people settle for love that makes them doubt. They hold on to relationships filled with uncertainty, waiting for the day when things will finally fall into place. They accept mixed signals, inconsistency, and half-hearted effort because they think that's just how love is, messy, complicated, and unpredictable. But real love isn't about confusion, it's about clarity. It's about knowing deep down that you are wanted, chosen, and cherished without having to beg for it. If you constantly find yourself asking, do they care? Do they miss me? Am I enough? Then something is missing. Love is not meant to be a guessing game. It's not meant to make you anxious, to make you question your worth, or to leave you feeling like an afterthought. When someone loves you, they don't leave you wondering. They don't keep you waiting. They don't disappear when it's inconvenient or return only when it benefits them. True love is consistent. It doesn't waver based on mood, circumstance, or timing. The truth is, love is a choice. Every single day, people choose who they invest in, who they prioritize, and who they show up for. And if someone is making you question whether or not they love you, then chances are they are not choosing you in the way you deserve to be chosen. But that doesn't mean you have to settle for it. You have the power to walk away from anything that makes you feel uncertain, from anyone who doesn't make you feel like you are enough, just as you are. The right love will feel different. It won't leave room for doubt because it will be obvious in the way they treat you. It will be in the way they remember the little things, the way they listen, the way they make an effort, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. Love should feel like home, a place where you can be yourself without fear, without hesitation, and without the constant need for reassurance. So if you're questioning whether someone truly loves you, maybe it's time to stop searching for answers in them and start finding them in yourself. You deserve a love that is sure, a love that is strong, a love that never leaves you wondering. And when you find it, or better yet, when it finds you, you'll realize that real love was never something you had to question in the first place. The future is something that belongs to you and only you. No one else gets to dictate where you go, who you become, or what kind of happiness you allow yourself to experience. When a relationship ends, it's easy to feel like your future was stolen from you, like all the plans, the dreams, and the hopes you once had with that person suddenly disappeared. But the truth is, your future was never tied to them in the first place. It was always yours to shape, yours to build, and yours to own. So often people get stuck in the past, replaying memories and wondering what could have been. They let heartbreak convince them that their best days were with the person who left, that love won't find them again, or that happiness is something they lost instead of something they can create. But that's not the reality. The future is still wide open. It is still filled with possibilities, new love, new adventures, and a version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, and more capable than you've ever been before. It's easy to believe that someone who once meant so much to you still has power over your story. You might find yourself checking their social media, wondering if they've moved on, questioning if they ever think about you, or hoping that one day they'll regret losing you. But the moment you stop worrying about what they're doing and start focusing on what you're doing, everything changes. Your future is not a waiting game for someone else to realize your worth. It is not a timeline dictated by their regrets or their decisions. It is something that belongs to you and you alone. The best thing you can do for yourself is to take your future back. Instead of looking behind you, start looking ahead. What do you want? Who do you want to be? What kind of love, career, passion, and adventure do you want to fill your life with? These are the questions that matter now, not what he's thinking, not whether he misses you, not whether he'll ever come back. Because whether he regrets losing you or not doesn't change the fact that you deserve more than a love that made you question yourself. And one day, when you've moved forward, when you've built the life you always wanted, when you've healed, when you've grown, he might look back and realize what he lost. He might wish he had treated you better, that he had chosen differently. But by then, it won't matter, because you won't be in the same place you were before. You'll be living, thriving, and experiencing everything life has to offer. The future is yours, not his, not theirs, not anyone else's. And the moment you realize that, you take back everything you thought you lost, because in the end, you were never the one who lost anything. He was.